to the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce Education Committee Network's PAC 14 TV show, Education is Everybody's Business. My name is Ladd Colston. I am a business member of the Chamber and the CEO of Sustainable Visions, LLC. Today, we will examine the second in a series of informative PAC 14 TV shows looking at Eastern Shore concerns that matter. Now, this second episode will feature the educational topic, Shore Concerns That Matter, the challenges of immigrant language and cultural differences. Sponsored by the Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore, Chamber CEO Bill Chambers, and our Education Committee Network members want this TV show to be a source of community awareness and knowledge of topics that impact education and workforce development here on Maryland's Lower Eastern Shore. We appreciate you listening in and providing us with your feedback on its usefulness. And please subscribe if you're viewing this show on YouTube, and a thumbs up if you like it. Now, according to the American Immigration Council, our state of Maryland has a large immigrant population, noting that 1 in 7 Maryland residents is an immigrant, and 1 in 8 residents is a native-born U.S. citizen with at least one immigrant parent. So immigrants are an integral part of Maryland's diverse and thriving communities and make major contributions that benefit all of us. Currently, the 3 largest immigrant populations residing here on the Eastern Shore are Latinos, Haitians, and Korean. Now, many of the Latino immigrant population come from Central America, with many of them working in the Maryland crab industry and the numerous agricultural farms, that's fruit and vegetable produce, located here on the shore. In the wake of political turmoil, government instability, economic crisis, and natural disasters, the Haitian population in Salisbury and on Delmarva has grown at a rapid rate, and many are seeking political asylum. Many of those who have found refuge here are working in the Delmarva poultry industry, including Purdue, Tyson, and Mount Ayr. They are a major source of our regional industry workforce. So to help us understand some of the challenges of immigrant language and cultural differences, I have invited Dr. Brian Stiegler, Assistant Provost of International Education at Salisbury University, to be my co-host for this informative episode, and 4 locally based resource specialists to share what they know and have experienced regarding the growing immigrant population here on the Lower Eastern Shore. First, let me introduce our viewers to our co-host, Dr. Brian Stiegler, Assistant Provost of Salisbury University's Center of International Education. He has a wealth of experience working with various immigrant and international groups and organizations. Welcome to our show, where this year we are exploring shore concerns that matter. Please take a few minutes, if you will, to share with our viewers a brief historical context, if you will, on the value of educating immigrants and their becoming active U.S. citizens. As you know, this is nothing new. So feel free to take us back, maybe even 100 years.
This is such an exciting conversation, and I'm looking forward to talking to our visitors about talking to our guests today about the way the Eastern Shore is experiencing challenges with immigrants and with languages in the public schools today. Because as you suggest, this is a foundational role of education in the United States history, and always has been, helping new immigrants to become actively engaged civic partners in our civil society. This is what the schools do from K through 16, and the public universities are part of this as well. My own heritage on my father's side is the German immigrants that came into Pennsylvania and into Baltimore at the end of the 1800s. And I'm always quick to remind people that in 1900 there was more bilingual German and English education happening in Baltimore than there ever has been Spanish and English or Creole and English bilingual education happening in Maryland. And the German community, in the fullness of time, became active members of our community and became strong citizens and learned English, and the schools helped make that happen. And not only did that German community become American, but America changed because of their presence. And we as Americans learned to appreciate German sausages, and we started calling them hot dogs, right? And we learned to pronounce funny German names like Anheuser and Busch, right? And that became part of our culture. And immigrant communities have always changed that. You could say the same thing about the Italian immigrant communities and their journey through the educational system and how they've changed us. And same is true even for immigrant communities for whom English was a native language, but whose cultures were different from the dominant population at the time, the Irish, for example, or the Scottish, who, again, there was a challenge getting them through those school systems and getting those cultures meshed. And at the end of that period, the Irish had become American, but America had changed because they had changed us. And we're seeing the same thing happen right now on the Eastern Shore, primarily with Latino immigrants and with Haitian immigrants. And at the university, we're already seeing the successes that are happening at the K-12 level manifest itself in higher education, as we've seen a growing number of immigrants, first generation, second generation immigrants at the university, and they're coming out of the university having been trained in medicine and nursing and education, as teachers, as social workers, as business people and entrepreneurs, and they're moving out into our society and becoming engaged in our community, and you can see it happening in front of us. And it's a remarkable story of success for the education system and for the immigrant communities, and how we as Americans do what we do, which is absorb these immigrant communities, allow them to change us, but then also at the end continue on being the Americans that we always have been. It's an exciting time, actually, as we watch one of these moments of immigration happening in our schools.
Yeah, and truly, immigration is a part of America's fabric, and people forget that. Or they really forget that. And that's how America has grown, through the immigrants and the immigration that has occurred. We've got an exciting show ahead, and we have identified 4 local resource specialists that we're going to interview and share their perspectives, if you will, as to the importance of education for the immigrants that have come to this particular country. So let's get on with it.
All right, let's do it. First, let's introduce to our viewers Dr. Ricardo Vasquez, who is currently an assistant professor of modern languages at Salisbury University. Dr. Vasquez, welcome to our show.
Thank you for this invitation, Brian.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your community involvement and engagement as an educator, working with the immigrant community, both here and abroad?
Well, first I want to start saying that when I arrived to the University of Salisbury University 3 years ago, the Department of Modern Languages and Intercultural Studies had a very well-established relation with the community. And I should mention here Dr. Pubil, Corinne Pubil. She has been working with the community for the whole time she has been here, and particularly during the pandemic. She created a network of leaders in the community, churches, institutions, organizations that were working together to give access to health services to the Latino immigrant community, or the Latino community in general, but focusing on immigrants, of course. So when I arrived, that network existed, and Dr. Apubil invited me to be part of that network, and introduced me some of these leaders, some of these people who were working with the community, and that's the way that I land in this network of people working together to make the place a better place of this area of Salisbury, around Salisbury University. And the first thing that we were doing was the Latino Festival, the first Latino festival that the Salisbury University was celebrating. It was on the fall of 22nd. And then I was working with Dr. Apubil on promotion, and that put me in contact with a lot of Latino business owners, but also with some radio stations in the area that focus on Latino population, radio stations in Spanish. Then we were promoting through these people, and at the same time we were bringing those people to the network too. And that was the beginning of my relation with the community in the area. After that, I started thinking on how I can bring this to my classes. Not teaching only a survey of Latin American literature or a course on Latin American culture or art or any other Spanish language level. Then, because I have, my dissertation was on sound, radio, and social movements, I was teaching a class on radio in Latin America, and then I proposed the department to have a final project for this course, where students are working with the community, interviewing people, and telling the stories of Latino challenges and success. And then we produced our first mini documentary on Latinos and Delmarva that was produced with the help of Brian Russo here in Delmarva Public Media, and it's on air. You can listen that online now. And from them, any class that I'm teaching now, any course that I'm teaching now, I'm trying to put some civic engagement of them. I must say I'm not the only one. All the people in my departments, on the French side and the Spanish side, have civic engagement as part of the job that they do in a daily basis with students.
So can you tell us a little bit more about how your students, you mentioned that they're doing these sort of visual and audio projects, right, with the community, about how your students are interacting at the university, are interacting with the local immigrant communities, and what's some of the challenges or opportunities that they're seeing with the immigrant community as they're doing this engagement?
Yeah, I must say it's a challenge always to bring students out of the comfort zone of being a student, just a student, and doing traditional assignments like writing a paper, writing a response paper, or just watching a movie and writing a report. Doing something that is practical, going out and doing. They love it, but it's a challenge. Yeah. So there's a lot of bureaucratic challenge. We are not talking about that for allow the students to go to do this project. But after that, first big challenge is language and communication, of course. Our students, or my students, speak Spanish, but they are still on the process of learning the language, and with the language, the intercultural competencies that you need to use a language in a perfect way, right? So that's the first challenge. They need to know how to communicate with this community that is diverse, because we usually use the term Latino, but under this umbrella term there's a lot of identities. So it's not the same to have a conversation with a Mexican person or with a Cuban person or with an Argentinian person, right? We speak Spanish, but there's some cultural differences, right? So that's the first challenge. And the second one is overcoming stereotypes, fears, and misinformation. That is everywhere. Students has been growing in a system full of these lies and myths and misinformation that they are learning how to learn to discriminate around that places and getting to the through the real contact with people, knowing the people and all that. And the other challenge that we were facing when going to the community is also getting the trust of these people. These people, usually immigrants, come from situations where institutions and other authorities are seen as a danger for them, right? Not here in the United States, even in Latin America. They are immigrating because there is a lot of corruption in the police system, or the government is using its power to oppress these people. So they distrust usually institutions, things like that. So coming from Salisbury University, that is an institution with a beautiful building and campus, not all the people trust you in the first way, right? Actually, when you talk to Latino community, especially young people, some of them think that Salisbury University is a private university, so there's no place for them there. And then you need to start the conversation of, oh, no, it's not a private university, there's a place for you there. There is a community of Latino students there. And here I should mention the Organization of Latin American Students that has been working with me on all these projects. So, as I say before, language and communication is a big challenge. After that, overcoming the stereotypes and all these lies, but also building a relation with this community, it takes time. So, probably the students that were doing the project with me on the spring 23rd on the media documentary, the second time they were doing a project, they had the relation. So remember, then when they are doing the next interview, they are getting more information, they are feeling more comfortable because the community start trusting in the university as a place to have a conversation with.
So as the students are overcoming these challenges of trust and engagement and learning how to do this kind of work as university students, ultimately, what kind of issues do you think that they found that are confronting the immigrant community here? Questions about acceptance and integration that affect immigrant communities here in Eastern Shore neighborhoods and communities. What do you think they found?
Well, on the other side, there's the same issues that I was talking about before. First, language and communication. So that is why I think that advocate for bilingualism on both sides is a very good thing to do. We should do more on fostering this idea of bilingual is the best thing that can happen to this country. Any country, any community, right? So we should help the Latino community or immigrant community to learn English, and we should help the English speakers in this country to learn other languages. So that's in both sides. The other one is this idea of misinformation that we were talking. There's misinformation on this side and on the other side too, right? Then thinking on specifically on the immigrants community, economic disparity is a big thing. Most of these people are accepting jobs with not a good payment, right? Not good salaries, for different reasons, right? Then that disparity you can see when you are going there. But let's not be naive here. Not all immigrants are poor people who are facing economic disparities. They are also owners of stores, owners of restaurants, other successful business. So you cannot assume that all these people are the same, and this is part of the challenges, the challenging in the communication process that both sides are having when they are together, right? I must say also that one of the big challenges that these immigrants are facing is access to different resources, right? Talking about education, health system, also with the lawyers, right? All those services, the big problem here is the language. Usually they don't have interpreters in Spanish to help those communities. And we saw that during the pandemic, the hospital didn't have enough interpreters to give health services to this community. So that is why that's a problem. In the education, we have been doing a lot. There are some programs, and even the Dr. Apu will have a program in the Pinehurst Elementary School where our students are mentoring kids in their school. But the main issue is for the immigrants who has arrived in the last 2 to 4 years, right? Because they don't speak English, and then they need that help to in all levels. I'm thinking even at the university level, in the college, there are students who still are learning the English and are studying business or nursing. Then they need help on that process. And the other thing I would say, if that the immigrant community, need more representations at all levels, need more representations on the organizations, institutions, the government, more faces that look like them, that know those histories, those stories and those histories, because that's another challenge that we are facing here, the ignorance. And I'm saying that it's a ignorance that is not the fault of anyone, but we don't teach geography and Latin American history in high school in the United States. So our kids don't know that history. So we should teach that history. Then they understand why these people are coming to the United States, why these people are here as part of our communities. And then is the best way to overcome those challenges in both sides. As you see, in my opinion, the challenges are on both sides, but thinking on immigrant communities, lacking of representation, access to resources, and this opportunity to learn English are the main challenges. There's not enough opportunities to learn English here, and I think the university can do more to help those people from different immigrant, because I've been focusing, because it's my job, on the Latino community, but Haitian, people from different countries live here with us, and they need access to the language to access other resources, and we can do more.
Dr. Vasquez, it's so interesting to hear you talk about your work, and Dr. Krim Pubil and your colleagues in modern languages, and your students, and how they are playing a role engaging with these immigrant communities in our civil society around us. Thank you for sharing your ideas with us.
Thank you for your invitation.
The Cata Farm Workers Support Committee is a nonprofit organization that focuses on food, justice, and immigration for the Latino community and the rights of immigrant workers here on the Eastern Shore. To help us understand the role of this organization, our next guest is Ms. Leila Borrero Kraus, who is currently the organizer and immigration specialist of the Cata Farm Workers Support Committee here in Salisbury. Welcome, Ms. Borrero Kraus.
Thank you, gracias.
Can you please tell us a little bit about Cata Farm Workers Support Committee and the role it has in supporting and providing resources for the Latino and immigrant community here on the Eastern Shore?
Sure. CATA is a farm workers committee and supports all the farm workers and their struggles and issues. It was started by farm workers themselves in 1979 in southern New Jersey. It has expanded to Pennsylvania and Maryland. Maryland being the newest addition to them. And Pennsylvania, they work with the mushroom workers, which are very close to Wilmington, Delaware. So we're right there in the border with Delaware, and I'm here in the other end of Delaware as well, providing services. We help the Latino immigrants, but not only the Latino. We have here in the Eastern Shore a very variation of groups from different parts of the world. So we have people from Sudan, we have Arabs, and we have, I had a German lady who was here for many years, and she needed to do her green card. So we were able to help her. But we have many immigrants here that come to us for different situations. Now with the new administration is an issue. They are all looking for help and assistance on what to do and where to go. Sometimes they come to me, they go to the Board of Education, the Board of Education calls me. But yeah, CATA, as a nonprofit and founded by immigrants themselves, we go for the rights and justice, food justice, housing, employment, the language barriers issues. We provide an array of services that many organizations do not. We're proud to have bilingual staff in our offices. In this office, we have a Haitian who speaks 4 languages: Haitian Creole, English, Spanish, and of course French. He is a medical doctor, and he is working with us, helping the influx of Haitian community that we have here in the last few months, but maybe a year. So CATA immediately saw that changes and provide the service to that community as well. So we are committed to the immigrant community to assist them in whatever they may need.
So you just spoke very interestingly about the diversity of the immigrants that CATA serves. Amongst the Latino workers that are part of that community, where do most of them come from these days? And what do you think are some of the major challenges that they face as immigrants working and adjusting to life on the eastern shore of Maryland?
Most of the immigrants come from Central America, Caribbean, but other parts of the world, like as I mentioned, Sudan. We have people from Ethiopia. They still have needs, especially doing petitions for family members to bring them to the country, or for them to become a U.S. citizen themselves. So we work with them and assist them in any way we can. If we cannot provide the services, we find a referral to do, especially to organizations that are considered, because of the income of families. They may think attorneys may take too much money, and it's a hardship for them to do what they need to do, because everything is about money. If they get a document that has to be notarized, there are people out here that take advantage of it and charge $300 for the notary. So we educate them as well, tell them this is what's supposed to be the cost of a notary seal, and for you to understand what does that mean. We educate them because a notary in a Spanish country could be an attorney, but in this country, a notary is only a person that gets a little certificate that says you can verify identity and signature in a document. It's not a lawyer. So that education is very great to have out there to the community.
So one of the themes we've heard repeated now, and you just mentioned it a minute ago in our conversations about this topic, is the language and cultural differences and the challenges that come with regard to acceptance and understanding, both for people who are local people who are already here, who are native born, and for foreign born people who are new arrivals. Do you have any suggestions or ideas about how we can overcome some of these challenges in language and cultural difference?
Yeah, my hope and my suggestion is to have more interpreters in these agencies. But and I understand it's a challenge, especially now with this new administration. But I also understand the challenge to find an interpreter that is accurate, that is very good at interpretation, because that's a skill. Not everybody can be an interpreter. It is an interpreter and it is a translation. So there's 2 different things. And we also tell the people about this. What I like the community to know, these immigrants that come over here, they come and do jobs that many citizens would not apply for. And that is very interesting, because who provides the meat packing for the restaurant or for the supermarkets to come to your house, the fruits and vegetables? They do a lot of work under the sun, from sun up to sundown, and they're exposed to chemicals. They have many issues with housing, chemicals, the heat stress, working long hours. In agriculture, farm workers overtime is after 60 hours under the sun, in the fields. They may not have facilities like a bathroom or drinking water. So we need to have the community to understand these people comes over here to assist us as well, help us to grow up in our community. I understand the challenges. We have people here, we have dialects, and a lot of indigenous from different countries, Guatemala, Mexico. But also, we have the Haitian community that many of them may speak Spanish, may not speak French, only Haitian Creole. So we have to have somebody to understand those languages and the difference between the French and the Haitian Creole. So I would, love to have more interpreters available, and I know the challenges. I am a medical interpreter, so I know how, the need is in this community. But for the locals to understand, this country was founded by immigrants. The variations continues of where they come from.
It's so interesting to hear you talk about Kata and the work that you do and the experience that you've had with this diversity of immigrants. We tend to think maybe about Latinos and Haitian Creoles right now, but you're so articulate about how many different types of immigrants are coming here, and really how that's just an ongoing process of what the United States has always been. Ms. Leila Borrero Kraus, thank you so much for your insights and your conversation about this important topic.
Gracias.
Thank you for viewing and listening in to part 1 of this informative 2-part series of Shore Concerns That Matter, the challenges of immigrant language and cultural differences. Look out for part 2. Until then, remember, education is everybody's business.